When Alysa Liu stood on the ice in Milan, flying through the air to become the first American woman in over 2 decades to capture an Olympic figure skating gold, she thought the hardest part of her journey was behind her. She laughed, called the entire whirlwind experience funny, and prepared to head home to celebrate a lifelong dream. But what waited for her at the airport terminal wasn't a standard hero's welcome. It was a terrifying glimpse into a dark new reality that would change her life forever. The second her feet touched American soil, she was immediately ambushed, hunted down, and literally chased to her getaway car by a frantic crowd of paparazzi and obsessive fans. It was a chaotic scene that forced the 20-year-old champion to issue a desperate, heartbreaking plea on social media, begging the public with a simple sentence: "Please do not do that to me." But in the hyper-connected era of modern sports fame, that plea fell on entirely deaf ears. Over the past 3 months, Alysa's world has expanded to a massive, global scale, transforming her from a niche sports prodigy into an absolute household name. She has transitioned from the icy rinks of the Winter Games to walking the high-fashion runways of Paris Fashion Week, and even sharing the stage with mainstream royalty to present Taylor Swift with an award at the iHeartRadio Music Awards. Alongside teammates like Amber Glenn and Ilia Milan, she has been headlining the massive Stars on Ice tour, selling out arenas across Japan and the United States, earning the title of the new face of figure skating from the New York Times. Yet, behind the glamorous headlines and the flashing cameras, a much darker story was unfolding in her private life. To truly understand how a dream turned into a living nightmare so quickly, we have to look at how unprecedented this victory actually was. For more than 20 years, American women's figure skating had been chasing a ghost, searching for someone who could capture the magic, the technical precision, and the sheer star power required to stand on top of the Olympic podium. When Alysa Liu walked into the Milan Winter Olympics, the expectations were heavy, but few outside her inner circle truly believed she would fly away with the absolute crown. She skated with a level of joy that felt detached from the immense pressure of the global stage. It was that exact genuine, unfiltered personality that made the world fall in love with her in an instant. When she called the gold medal experience funny, it wasn't out of disrespect. It was the raw reaction of a teenager who couldn't believe she had just conquered the sporting world. But the sports world is a predator that consumes its heroes. The moment that gold medal was placed around her neck, Alysa ceased to be just an athlete. She became public property. The transition from elite competitor to global celebrity happened literally overnight, during a long-haul flight across the Atlantic. When that plane landed, the bubble popped. Speaking to the San Francisco Chronicle, Alysa dropped a chilling confession about her newfound reality, admitting that she hasn't really been able to be home, and that the absolute scariest part of this entire journey is the sheer volume of random people who now know exactly who she is. This overwhelming, suffocating loss of anonymity has forced her to take extreme, heartbreaking precautions just to step outside. Think about the psychological toll that takes on a person. At an age where most young adults are figuring out their college majors, choosing their outfits, and hanging out at local coffee shops, an Olympic champion is sitting in her room mapping out escape routes. To avoid being recognized in public, she now has to completely cover her trademark hair, hiding those famous, vertical bleached bands and halo stripes that fans around the world immediately associate with her signature look. Her hair wasn't just a style choice. It was her brand, her identity on the ice, the visual marker of her artistic freedom. Now, it is a liability. Her normal life is entirely gone, replaced by a rigid routine where she no longer goes out by herself under any circumstances, constantly having to calculate her personal safety before making a single move. If she wants to buy groceries, if she wants to get some fresh air, she has to hide, cover up, and ensure she has a security buffer. How did winning the ultimate athletic achievement turn a young woman's life into a claustrophobic prison? For Alysa, the true turning point of this realization happened away from the cameras, during the intense Japanese leg of the Stars on Ice tour. The tour itself was supposed to be a celebration, a victory lap where she, alongside Ilia Milan and Amber Glenn, could perform without the crushing anxiety of judges' scores. But instead of a sanctuary, the tour became a gauntlet. In a culture known for deep respect, The sheer financial desperation of modern sports memorabilia resellers created an incredibly toxic environment. Obsessive fans and aggressive resellers began tracking her movements, showing up directly at the hotels where she was staying, waiting in lobbies and corridors just to corner her. Imagine finishing a grueling performance, aching from head to toe, wanting nothing more than the safety of your hotel bed, only to find strangers lurking near the elevator with stacks of photos for you to sign. It forced Alysa into a defensive position where she had to start denying photos to fans at her own hotels, simply because she couldn't risk people knowing exactly which room or building she was sleeping in. While most genuine fans understood the boundary, the resellers, driven by profit, proved that the word no is simply not in their vocabulary. They don't see an exhausted athlete, they see a paycheck with a gold medal. But the situation escalated from annoying to genuinely dangerous when Alysa and her teenage teammate Alysa Liu found themselves walking arm in arm through Japan. They were away from the arena, trying to find a moment of peace, when they were completely surrounded and followed by a group of strange men who kept deliberately cutting them off and stopping directly in front of us. It is the kind of predatory, isolating scenario that could terrify anyone, let alone a 20-year-old thrust into the global spotlight. This wasn't just overzealous fandom anymore. This was active stalking, an intimidation tactic designed to trap two young women in a public space. It forces us to ask a deeply uncomfortable question about the underbelly of sports culture. Where does admiration end and criminal harassment begin? When we look at the trajectory of modern fandom, amplified by social media tracking and the skyrocketing value of autographed merchandise, athletes are being hunted like rare game. But fortunately for Alysa, she wasn't walking alone in the dark. Standing right beside her was 26-year-old Amber Glenn, the oldest member of the American squad, and a skater who has faced her own massive share of consistency struggles and intense public scrutiny over the years. Amber Glenn knows what it feels like to be judged, to be vulnerable, and to fight for your place in a harsh world. She is one of U.S. figure skating's absolute darlings, a powerhouse athlete whose raw personality and big performances have earned her immense praise, even when her routines face setbacks. But beyond her athletic prowess, Glenn has quietly developed a reputation as the ultimate protector of Team USA's younger figure skaters. She has stepped into a maternal, fiercely protective role for the teenagers on the team, acting as a shield against the pressures of the federation, the media, and clearly, the dangers of the public. When those men closed in on Alysa and Alysa in Japan, Glenn didn't hesitate for a single fraction of a second. She instantly transformed into what Alysa affectionately calls Mama Bear, stepping directly between the young skaters and the men, forcefully telling them to get back and single-handedly defusing a highly volatile situation. This fiercely protective bond has forged something beautiful out of a terrifying situation, binding Alysa, Amber, and Alysa into a trio that fans are now calling Team USA's Blade Angels. On social media, they look like ordinary best friends, filling their feeds with inside jokes, funny videos, and behind-the-scenes glimpses of their travels. But in reality, Amber has stepped up as a crucial big sister figure, shielding these teenagers from the predatory side of sudden global fame. For Alysa, having Amber around isn't just a comfort. It is a necessity for her mental survival. It shows that in an individual sport where athletes are traditionally trained to view everyone as a rival, a deep, tribal sisterhood has formed to protect the human beings inside the costumes. It forces us to look at the broader, highly uncomfortable cultural impact of how we treat our sporting heroes today. We demand perfection on the ice. We demand charm on the red carpet. We demand that they represent our national pride on the global stage. But we completely forget that beneath the gold medals, these are real human beings who deserve privacy, safety, and a baseline of respect. Is this intense level of harassment just part and parcel of the social media era, an unavoidable tax that athletes must pay for their success? Or have we, as sports fans and consumers, crossed a line into dangerous, entitled obsession where we believe that buying a ticket or watching a broadcast grants us total ownership over an athlete's physical space? Alysa Liu told Interview magazine that she realizes she can't do the normal things she loves anymore, and while she laments that it sucks, she has resigned herself to believing it's just the price she has to pay. but it shouldn't be the price. No 20-year-old should have to disguise her hair, live in fear of her own supporters, or rely on her teammates to physically fend off stalkers in a hotel lobby just because she brought glory to her country. The Milan gold medal undeniably changed the trajectory of Alysa Liu's career, ensuring her name will live forever in sports history. But as she navigates this chaotic, terrifying new world where life no longer feels normal, the real victory isn't the gold hanging around her neck. It's the fact that she has real, fiercely loyal friends like Amber Glenn watching her back when the cameras turn off. If you think elite athletes owe us their safety just because they're famous, or if you want to support real protection for these stars, make sure to like this video, share your thoughts, and subscribe to Athlexa Report for more deep dives into the real stories behind the sports world. Do you think sports federations need to do more to provide private security for athletes post-Olympics? Or is dealing with aggressive fans just an unavoidable part of becoming a global superstar? Let me know in the comments below, and let's get the conversation started.